Rents in Denver are finally declining, and it may be a sign of things to come. Here's the deal. After nearly a decade of increasing and very, very strong demand for rental properties in Denver, we are finally seeing a drop, a pullback in that demand, and that's making rental prices come down a little bit with it. This is really great news for renters who have been priced out of a lot of these properties for a long time and may be signaling even more drops in rents in coming months and years. I'm going to go through all the data here and try to put it in context. And if you don't know Sam Newman, Denver real estate broker, would love to be your go-to for anything real estate in the Denver area. Please do reach out. It is my favorite. Okay, so you can get average rental prices from a number of different sources, but there's no one centralized source telling us how the average rental price across properties are doing. Some will look at apartments, others will look at single family homes, but it's tough to get data for everything. But I'm actually pulling a lot of this information from a really good recent blog post by Grace Property Management. It's a property manager local to the Denver area, and they put out a blog post talking about what's going on and sharing a lot of these numbers. They're compiling data from a number of sources, including their own internal data, including a rental analysis site called rentrange.com, including Zillow, a bunch of different sources to try to get an idea of exactly where rents are in Denver. So it's a really good data set, and what they're seeing is the average rent across all property types declined in the most recent report they did, which was March 2024. That's for all properties. So overall rent came down, but for certain property types, it actually went up a little. So based on the most recent numbers, the average rent in Denver is $2,077. This is down $18 month over month and also down $73 year over year. And year over year is really the significant one. Month over month can vary and can wobble back and forth based on seasonality or other things that change from one month to the next. But the year over year number is significant. That really gives us an idea of where the rental market is headed. So for rents to be down $73, not a lot, but something year over year means something. Grace Property Management believes we're finally seeing a cooling in renter demand, but they point out that it's important to look at the numbers more specifically to show what's exactly happening here. So in this case, we got to break down multifamily properties versus single family properties. This is the big difference. So multifamily can be anything that's an attached property, anything other than a single family freestanding house, basically. So that's what a single family is. Multifamily is apartments, condos, townhomes, duplexes, anything else like that. And what they saw was the drop in average rents was entirely due to the multifamily section of rental housing. So the multifamily average rent in Denver is $1,850, and that is down $65 year over year. And right now they're seeing about 2,700 vacancies in multifamily properties. And what's interesting is that's out of 3,400 total vacancies in all property types. So the vast majority of the vacancies are in these multifamily properties, which makes sense because there's more of them available too. So it would seem likely that there would be more vacancies as well. Compare this to single family homes, where the average rent is right at $3,000. And in single family, the average rent is actually up $55 month over month and up $50 year over year. So what's going on here? Well, single family homes, as far as rental properties and as far as properties to buy as well, typically are and continue to be the most desirable type of housing overall. It is what most people in Denver and in the US for the most part want right now. They want the space that the single family provides. They want a yard. They want room to spread out and do the things they want to do. They want a home office. Since COVID changed the way we work, having that home office is a big deal for a lot of people. The single families are the most valuable for these reasons, and because typically there's a larger buyer pool. If it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, single family home in a good neighborhood, that's going to meet the needs of a large number of, I said buyers before, but renters in this case. Versus if it's a 1-bedroom apartment downtown, that may meet the needs of a specific type of renter, and it definitely does, but it doesn't meet the needs of a whole bunch of folks with families or who just need more space, or a lot of folks with pets. Pets can be a big thing when it comes to single families. They're much more likely to allow pets and have it be a pet-friendly environment, backyard, all that sort of stuff. In apartments and condos, some of them allow them, some don't. There's usually a pet deposit. And for pet owners, it's a bigger barrier to harmonious life with your pet, right? It's one thing to be able to just open up the back door and let the dog out to the backyard. It's another thing to have to leash up, go downstairs or an elevator every time it's time for the dog to relieve itself, go pee, whatever. So demand for the single family homes is going to be higher than multifamilies typically, but supply is also lower. When it comes to single family homes, the landlords for these properties tend to be ma and pop investors, just normal people who own one rental property, maybe two rental properties, not these big conglomerates that are owning apartment buildings, condo buildings, dozens or hundreds of units in the multifamily space. Not always, but it's what is typical. And so for that reason, there's fewer single family homes that are owned available for rent. The other thing though too is supply. Supply of multifamily properties has shot up dramatically in the last year. There's a great article from Denverite that talks about this, and that tells us that in 2023, 13,246 new rental units were created in the multifamily space. These numbers are from the Colorado Apartment Association. So they're looking at apartments, condos, other properties like that for rent. Well, what's happening here? Literally, it was just a whole bunch of new buildings being built or finished that are now available for rent. It's adding to that supply. We talk about housing supply and the shortage all the time, and that shortage has existed in the rental market as well for a long, long time. And builders are finally starting to catch up. So basically, they had all these plans pre-COVID because they were trying to meet this unmet demand, which existed pre-COVID, pre-all that stuff, 2020. Okay, well then COVID happened, and if you remember, some things happened with industry in general, but especially the construction industry. A lot of these things had to pause. And not only were they pausing building for a while, once they got the green light to continue these projects, materials were very, very hard to get. The cost of everything went up. There was some blockade in a port in Long Beach or something like that. It was a nightmare for a really long time for builders and continues to be in some ways, but a lot of those barriers have been removed or reduced. So basically there was this entire backlog that they had started or had plans for and hadn't built yet. And finally now, as of last year, many of these projects are being completed, coming to fruition. And so that's adding to the supply of apartments, condos, and other similar properties for rent. Adding to the supply, making the prices go down if demand stays the same or drops a little bit. This is why you're seeing the difference in multifamily properties and single family properties, because while there are more single family properties being built, you're seeing the same type of thing happen with apartments and condos in the single family space as well. But the properties that are being built, at least in the Denver area, are less likely to be properties that will then be rented out. Most of them, if not almost all of them, are being built to be sold. If you're looking at new home build communities in the Denver area, many of them are not in areas that are prime for rentals. You can still rent these places, but a lot of them are farther out in these sort of sprawling new build communities that people have no problem buying in typically, but don't always want to use that as a rental. If for a lot of the rental pool, they want to be more central, want to be more downtown, they're at a different stage in their life than they are when they're buying a home. So moral of the story, rents on multifamily properties are declining and should continue to decline because in addition to that 13,000 some odd new apartments and condos that were built for rent last year, there is estimated 45,000 more in the pipeline to be built over the next few years. This is going to obviously increase supply even more, should help those prices come down even more. And the takeaway from the single family home market for rentals is they're still the most desirable. They are still going up. Rents are still going up, but less than they have been. The rise in single family rents is more tepid, is smaller in this most recent report than it has been. That's good news for renters as well. Overall, we're seeing what we've been seeing in a few ways in the resale market. It's a stabilization and a return to a more normal market for renters and for landlords. It's not going to be completely normal because this is still a desirable place to live, and we still do have a supply issue despite all of these units being added. That will continue for some time. It'll still be a competitive market, but it's getting more reasonable, which is good news all around. At least good news if you're a renter. If you're a landlord, you're still doing fine. You may have to adjust your expectations a little bit, and it's important to stay informed on this stuff to know how to price and what to do with your property. Interestingly enough, Grace Property Management notes that there's never been a time in their 45 plus years of doing this, never have they seen this big a difference in the markets for those two different property types. I think COVID is still just playing a big role here. I think those lingering effects and new way of living with the home office, with people wanting more space, a yard, those types of things are really playing a big role here. Like I said before, let me know if I can be of help to you in any way. And hey, if you're interested in a market update as far as buying and selling real estate, I did one of those recently as well. I will link to that here. Otherwise, I love you. Talk soon.